Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why sometimes you feel happy and sad at the exact same moment, or how these feelings change throughout your day? Well, scientists have been looking into this, and they've created something pretty amazing to help us understand it better. So, what if you could dive into the daily lives of thousands of people and see how their feelings change? Not just from day to day, but from moment to moment. That's exactly what a new project called openESM is all about. Think of it like a giant treasure chest filled with tiny snapshots of people's experiences. You know how sometimes a single study tells us something interesting, but you're left wondering if it's true for everyone or in every situation? That is a big challenge in science. And with experience sampling, which is when researchers ask people about their feelings or experiences in real time, many times a day, it's even more true. Collecting this kind of data is tough. It takes a lot of effort from people participating and the researchers. So, even though lots of studies have collected this kind of detailed data, it's all been scattered around in different places, making it super hard to put together. That's where openESM comes in. It's like a super organized library for this kind of data. They've gathered information from 60 different studies, involving over 16,000 people, and collected more than 740,000 individual observations. Imagine all those little moments captured and put into a format that scientists can actually use together. And the best part is, it's all open and accessible. You can go to their website openesmdata.org, and search for what you're interested in. Want to see studies about mood or how people cope with stress? You can filter and find the datasets that fit your questions. Then you can even download them using tools that scientists use like R and Python. It's all about making science easier and more collaborative. To show us what this database can do, the researchers did a cool experiment. They looked at how positive and negative feelings are connected for people in their everyday lives. They sifted through 39 different studies and found that when people feel more positive emotions like happiness or excitement, they tend to feel less negative emotions like sadness or anxiety. At the same time, this connection, called a negative correlation, was quite strong, around minus 0.49. This graph here shows that for each study, Therese a point representing how strongly positive and negative feelings were linked. You can see in this forest plot that while Therese a general trend of them being opposite, Therese also quite a bit of variation between the different studies. This means that while usually feeling good means not feeling bad, sometimes this link can be a little different depending on the study or the people in it. They also discovered something interesting about how often people were asked about their feelings. The more often people were prompted each day, the slightly stronger this negative link between positive and negative feelings became. It's like asking people more frequently gives a clearer picture of how these emotions bounce off each other. So, what does all this mean for us? Well, this project is a game changer for understanding human behavior and emotions. Instead of relying on small isolated studies, we can now look at massive amounts of data. This helps us see if findings are real and true for many different kinds of people and situations. It is like being able to see the forest for the trees where before we could only see a few trees at a time. This analysis they did is the biggest of its kind ever, looking at over 500,000 moments in people's lives. It gives us a much more reliable picture of how our emotions work day to day. It shows that while emotions might seem all over the place, there are often predictable patterns like positive and negative feelings often moving in opposite directions. The people who created openESM really focused on making it easy for everyone to use. They wanted it to last and grow with the help of the scientific community. Because it's open source, anyone can contribute, suggest improvements, or even add their own data. This collaborative approach is key to building a really rich resource for the future. Their data is stored safely and permanently, so it won't just disappear. And because they've organized all the information in a standard way, it's easy to find and understand no matter who collected the original data. This makes sure the research built on this database will be strong and reliable. Now, even with this amazing database, there are challenges. One big one is that experience sampling data can be super varied. Different studies ask questions in different ways, collect data at different times, and measure different things. This makes it tricky to compare everything perfectly. So, while openESM is a huge step forward, scientists are still working on the best ways to analyze all this diverse information together, especially when it comes to complex things like machine learning. Another important point they bring up is that the data mostly comes from people in Western countries. This means we can't assume that the patterns they see will be the same everywhere in the world. It's a reminder that science needs to be even more inclusive and reach out to diverse groups of people to truly understand how emotions work for everyone. So openESM is like a living project. It's already big and impressive, but it's designed to keep growing. The researchers are asking other scientists to add their data and help build it up even more. This means that in the future, we'll have an even more powerful tool for understanding the complexities of human experience. Now, how did they actually build this incredible database? They had a clear idea: make everything as findable, accessible, and reusable as possible. They collected existing datasets that had open licenses or got permission to share them. They had to meet some basic rules, like having at least 20 participants and enough data points per person to make sure the data was useful for analysis. The really hard work was in the data processing. They took all the different datasets, which were in various formats, and cleaned them up. They made sure the names for things like participant ID or date were the same across all datasets. They also made sure that missing information was recorded consistently. Think of it like taking a messy pile of Lego bricks and sorting them by color and size so you can actually build something. And to make searching easier, they assigned keywords or constructs to each piece of data. They built a system where all the data is stored safely on a platform called Zenodo, which is like a permanent archive for research. Then they have all the instructions and descriptions called metadata on GitHub, which is a place where teams can work together on code. This way, not only is the data safe, but the instructions on how to use it are also public and can be updated by the community. To make it super simple for scientists to get this data, they created special tools or packages for programming languages like R and Python. This means instead of spending weeks trying to download and clean data, a researcher could potentially do it in minutes, and their website can even automatically generate the code for you to download the specific datasets you need. For their example analysis, they had to figure out which items in the surveys were asking about positive or negative feelings. This wasn't always straightforward because different studies use different words. They had about 39 studies that had enough information to look at effect. They included about 8457 participants in this specific analysis. They also did something called detrending, which basically means they removed any overall upward or downward trends in the feelings over time, so they could better see the moment-to-moment changes. Then, for each person, they calculated how positive and negative feelings were related. Looking at their feelings throughout the study, they used a statistical technique called meta-analysis, which is like a superpowered way to combine results from many studies. They transformed the results to make them comparable, and then used a special tool in R called Metaphor to crunch the numbers. To make sure their findings were solid, they tested their results with different ways of cleaning and analyzing the data. They tried different ways to remove trends, different ways to measure the link between feelings, and different rules for who to include in the study. They did this 12 different times to see if their main conclusion held up. Thankfully, their main finding about the negative correlation between positive and negative effect remained pretty consistent. So, what's my take on this? I think openESM is absolutely brilliant. It tackles a huge problem in psychological research. How do we really understand human behavior when individual studies are so small and scattered? This database is like building a massive shared brain for experience sampling research. It empowers scientists to ask bigger questions and get more reliable answers. The strength of this research lies in its scale and its commitment to open science. By bringing together so much data in a harmonized way, it lowers the barrier for researchers to do powerful studies. The fact that they included tools to easily access and analyze the data is super important. Of course, like any research, it has limitations. As they mentioned, there is a bias towards data from certain parts of the world, which means we still need more research from diverse populations to truly understand how different cultures experience emotions. Also, while they try different analysis methods, there are always endless ways to analyze data, and different choices can lead to slightly different conclusions. But the potential here is enormous. Imagine researchers being able to quickly test if a new theory about well-being holds up across thousands of people, or if an intervention designed to reduce anxiety works in various contexts. This database makes that kind of ambitious research possible. It's also going to be a fantastic resource for developing new statistical tools for analyzing complex, time series data for all of us. This research helps remind us that our emotions are dynamic, they shift and change, and often feeling good and feeling bad are two sides of the same coin moving in opposite directions. Understanding these patterns might even help us develop better ways to support our own emotional well-being. What do you guys think? Are you curious about your own daily emotions? Let me know in the comments below, and if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science explained simply, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.